What's in a Name by Katy Haye. Nanasima was descended from warrior queens, but now that the warring had ceased, due to treaties and truces negotiated by Nanasima and her ministers, she was trying to adjust to peaceful life. It was surprisingly difficult. She'd grown used to eyeing every ambassador warily, to mistrusting each bite she consumed, and to turning a still countenance to each messenger while her heart hammered wildly in anticipation of dread news. It was a hard habit to break. She had cut down her daily weapons and hand-to-hand combat training from 6 hours per day to just 2, which seemed a good start for peace, but that simply left her with more time to brood about the wasted lives that had brought them, finally, to this point. If she must send no more troops to die, she should be happy, so why was she so restless and unfulfilled? Envoys now brought gifts and requests for trade agreements. Messengers brought news of good harvests and thriving villages, while the kitchen's skills were growing apace as they ventured to try new ingredients without worrying they might cover a poison. "Perhaps you should think of your legacy," the court priest suggested, when she indicated as delicately as she could, since she was the queen, that she found peace unsatisfying. "When your descendants talk of your illustrious reign, what name would you like history to grant you?" Nanasima fell silent while she considered this. Her ancestors crowded her mind. Kitra the Deadly, Asimana the Skull-Crusher, Tarina the Widow-Maker. None of those were appropriate, not now. "Nanasima the Peacemaker, perhaps," the priest suggested gently. She didn't reply, and her face certainly didn't give away her opinion, but her priest had served her for years and could interpret the tiniest silence. "Nanasima the Protector?" was the next try. Better, but it felt overblown to claim to protect her people when a sword was no longer in her hand and the last battalions were returning from the border. Treaties and trade agreements were flimsy pieces of paper. Applied well, they were stronger than steel. But no, that wasn't the right name. "Nanasima the Wise." That got a gentle huff of amusement that she would allow very few save her priest to witness. "I wouldn't claim so high," she countered lightly. The priest smiled. "You are the queen. Who else can claim as high as you?" "I shall leave history to decide for itself," she stated firmly. It was a dismissal. The priest rose and bowed, but didn't leave immediately. "Peace took a while to settle on the nation," he stated carefully. "Perhaps it will simply take a little while to settle in your heart." Nanasima nodded. She glanced at the window, where warm spring sunshine poured through coloured glass, styled to depict one of Kitra the Deadly's victories. Red predominated. "I'll take a walk." The priest bowed again. "A wise idea, Gracious Highness." Her lips twitched as he left. The decision to take a walk was definitely not wise enough to earn her the title, whatever the priest thought. Outside, the gardens were beautiful, bathed in bright spring sunshine, while a brisk breeze kept everything feeling sharp and new. As she walked along a gravel path, Nanasima passed 3 gardeners in different spots, toiling to ensure the spring flowers looked their best. She paused and said a few words to each. The gardeners were deferential, eyes trained on the ground they worked, their thanks for her praise barely audible. Nanasima the Intimidating. Knowing she was making them uncomfortable rather than allaying their fears, the queen moved on. As she neared the wall that marked her private quarters, she heard the clash of weapons and a voice raised in command. Her heartbeat sped. She knew that voice. Lhasa had returned to the capital. Ducking through an archway and turning right, Nanasima found a sandy practice yard where a dozen young soldiers were performing their drills. Walking between their lines was General Lhasa. Helmetless, her dark hair snaked in a long braid down her back. Her spine was straight, her shoulders back as she corrected a hand here and a foot there. "The Queen will be watching when you parade," Lhasa called, hands on hips as she addressed all the sweaty, dishevelled youths. "You will do her and this country and our army honour, or I'll gut you myself." Nanasima stopped a few paces away. Why had no one told her Lhasa had returned? She'd been on the border a week ago, the last of the generals to leave the front line, swearing that she would do so only when the treaties were all in place. Nanasima had missed her forthright additions to council meetings, as she had every time duty had called the woman away. An occasional formal letter reporting a victory or requesting more troops had been a poor substitute. Lhasa called for the drill to start again. As the youths practised the demonstration they would give at the peace parade on full moon day, The general turned aside and caught sight of Nanasima. Her eyebrows flashed in surprised recognition, tugging at the scar that ran the length of her face from temple to chin. She ducked her head in a bow that conveyed respect with no trace of obsequiousness. Unlike the gardeners, she was unafraid to meet her queen's gaze. She clapped her hands and the soldiers stopped. "The Queen does us the honour of reviewing our display. Let's show her what we're capable of. And in the name of the skies, don't let your feet drag. Yes, Zendo, I mean you." Nanasima wasn't sure which youth was Zendo. They all stood smartly to attention and started over once more. She watched them, but let her attention dart back to Lhasa repeatedly. The general was watching with a frown carved between her brows. She'd mentioned honouring the Queen, country and the army. She hadn't said that she expected her soldiers to honour the training she'd given them too. The soldiers, as Nanasima expected, were perfect, unified in each step and action. If anyone's feet dragged, she didn't spot the error. She applauded when they were done. "Bravo! You're a credit to your training. Your Queen is grateful for the work you've done to keep the nation safe." Her attention shifted to Lhasa. "I should be pleased if you would join me for dinner tonight." Lhasa ducked her head again. "I would be honoured." Nanasima nodded and turned away, because there was no reason now to stay. She was smiling as the sound of Lhasa's barked commands followed her back into her private gardens. The last of her troops was returned, the last of her generals back safely. It seemed that was what was needed to enable her to relax and enjoy peace. They ate on the terrace, braziers blazing at all four corners to chase away the evening's chill. "I received your letter," Nanasima said as they began to eat. "I agreed with your proposal for peacetime occupations for our soldiers. Several projects are planned to ensure everyone will have occupation now we're at peace. The capital will be quite transformed, and every village with more than 3 families will have a well by the end of the year." Lhasa smiled, her face shining in the firelight. Nanasima was reminded of the thought she'd often had, that Lhasa's scars amplified her emotions. Whether she was smiling or scowling, there could be no doubt of her feelings. It was refreshing and beautiful. "I'm aware of the plans. My battalion will be dispersed to their new roles by the end of the month." She paused, then added, "I'm pleased you decided my proposal was worth consideration." Nanasima selected an olive. "You always speak good sense. I hoped you would accept a permanent place on my council. You need a peacetime occupation too." "I'm honoured to serve my queen however she wishes." Nanasima selected a piece of bread and tore it into pieces while she examined Lhasa. "You can say no," she said, as blandly as she could manage, "if you have other plans for your future." Lhasa sat back. "Duty and desire unite in a role serving you," she replied. She was trying to keep her face straight, but it was definitely a smile she was hiding. "I hoped you might also consent to stay in the palace. I ordered rooms close to my own prepared." "Yes," it was categorically a smile. "I fear tongues will wag about what I might have done to earn such a favour from my queen." "Let them." Nanasima pushed her plate aside and leaned forward. "I should prefer it if you called me by my name." Lhasa's eyes opened wide and her lips curved harder, her smile travelling up her scar to reach her hairline. "Nanasima," she said, her voice low, her tone sultry, and every syllable a caress. Nanasima suppressed a shudder and looked forward to the time she wouldn't need to hide her feelings in Lhasa's company. She offered her hand. "Would you like to take a look around your new quarters? I hope you'll find them more satisfactory than a tent on campaign." Lhasa set a warm, calloused hand in hers. "I'd love it, even if it were a leaky tent, if there's a hope you'll share it with me," she said. "That hope would definitely be fulfilled," the Queen promised. She revelled in the feeling of Lhasa's hand in hers, even if her own countenance was calm. Nanasima the lover. That would do, if history could think of nothing better when she was gone. Many years from now. Many happy years from now. That was What's in a Name by Katy Haye. Like and subscribe if the mood takes you. A new video is posted up every Friday. Thanks for listening.